Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings everyone. We have now arrived at the holiday celebration of Good Friday and better known as Easter. So many would be wanting to know what is the significance of Easter and the celebration of Easter. Why do we celebrate it? Well, firstly, it is a Christian celebration and it is commemorating the death and resurrection of Jesus. And this may beg the question for people like myself from other religions who would be wondering, why would people celebrate the death of their master? You would never find a Muslim, for example, celebrating the death of the Prophet Muhammad, or a Jew, for example, celebrating the death of Moses, or a Hindu celebrating the death of his or her deities. But in the case of Christianity, the reason why Christians celebrate the death of Jesus is because for Christians, the death of Jesus is more important than even his life, because Christians do believe that Jesus died for their sins. And therefore, this is reason to celebrate, of course. But I want to shed light on two important points. Firstly, with regards to the name Easter, it actually derives from the name of a pagan god called Eoster, and this is a German goddess that people celebrated and believed in ancient day. And there are other gods such as Eoster, namely Ishtar, and different other gods, Mithra, and several other gods, where ancient pagans would celebrate these gods' birth, and they would celebrate their strength. And this is because the pagans were very, very much influenced by nature. And that is, when the change of the season happened, this was cause for celebration. This is why December the 25th is the celebration of the birth of the sun. The birth of the sun. Not the sun Jesus, but the sun God, which they worshipped. They worshipped the sun. And therefore, in spring in the Northern Hemisphere, which is the time when Easter is being celebrated, the day becomes longer. The day becomes equivalent with the night at the spring equinox, and it then starts becoming longer. Hence, now a reason to celebrate the overpowering of the day over the night. And so the pagans used to celebrate this, and when pagans became Christians, a lot of their practices entered into Christianity, unfortunately. And so, therefore, even the name and even the celebration is based in paganism. I want to say something more important as well, and that is whether Jesus died for our sins. Well, if we study the Bible and we study the words of Jesus, we find that according to the Gospels of both Matthew and Mark, Matthew chapter 27 verse 46 tells us that the last words of Jesus before he passed away were, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me? So, if Jesus cried out that God had forsaken him and these were his last words, then obviously he didn't know that he came to die for our sins. Because if he knew he came to die for our sins, then on the last hour and his last words, he would be happy to have finally fulfilled his mission. But interestingly, it's very interesting that in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus' last words are different. And scholars tell us, textual critical scholars of the Bible tell us today, that the first Gospel to have been written was the Gospel of Mark. And Luke and Matthew copied Mark. Matthew, however, copied Mark correctly. But Luke, in regards to the last words of Jesus, completely changed what Jesus said according to Mark. And that is, Luke states in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23, verse 46, that when Jesus said his last words, he said, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." Now that's very convenient. And that's why the Quran actually tells us, فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ, woe to those who wrote the book with their hands. ثُمَّ يَقُولُونَ هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ, and then they say, this is from Allah, from God. So in order for covering up, because they understood, because Luke knew that Matthew's narrative and Mark's narrative did not fit the story and did not justify Jesus dying for our sins, or the narrative that he wanted to portray, whatever it was, he had to amend it and change it. And this actually is only one aspect that illustrates, or one part of Jesus' life, which illustrates how much of false changes have entered into the narratives about Jesus' life. And there are so many more, but this will be enough for now. I hope this was educational, and I hope if there's any questions, you're welcome to post on the comments. Thank you all. Wassalamu alaikum.